Dead Leaves is the anime equivalent of ingesting a hero dose of psychedelic amphetamine cocktail pumped directly through your eyeballs into your brainstem. It's the type of movie that within 5 minutes of starting, you know you're either gonna have a bad time or one of the best viewing experiences anime can offer. And let me tell you, my dudes, you do not want to pass on Dead Leaves. It is an epic action thriller of the trippiest caliber. Imagine if Studio Trigger decided to mix rocket fuel and Peruvian dancing dust while continually playing Katamari and rolled that insanity into a 50-minute movie. That is Dead Leaves. Directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi, the co-founder of Studio Trigger and director of Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, and FLCL, Dead Leaves isn't just something to put on and relax to. It is an experience that will literally bend the space-time continuum around you, and suddenly an hour has gone by in 5 minutes. You aren't supposed to think. You aren't supposed to ponder. Dead Leaves is meant for you to experience it in the moment, and anything else isn't going to do you justice. So just take my word for it. And if you haven't watched Dead Leaves yet, and this is your first introduction to it, maybe just take an hour and fill your brain with its high-octane insanity before going any further. This is Dead Leaves. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, this is Mike here. It has been a hot minute since we've been able to just sit and talk like this. It's very important to me and Tyler and to the channel that we talk to you guys about the most important aspect of Bonsai Pop. And that, of course, is the Patreon, which we have recently revamped and made much better and given access to more people the best parts of the Patreon. It's because of Patreon that we are able to make videos on something relatively random and obscure like Dead Leaves, where we know that even though these videos might not get the most views in the world, that people out there are coming and enjoying and really wanting to see more of what it is that we do make. YouTube wants channels to trend chase. That's just the way it works. That's the way videos get the most views and the most clicks. That's how YouTube makes the most money. And as we speak, there's about 100 anime channels that do exactly that. They are all talking about the same thing at the same time. The only reason that we're able to make the unique content that we do is because we are backed up by patrons. On top of that, our community is one of the best and kindest that I have ever come across. And I'm not being hyperbolic. We have had few to very little minuscule problems in the 3 years that this Patreon server has been open. If Patreon isn't your thing, that's unfortunate, but we have re-upped our contract with G Fuel and we will be working with them for the next year. So if G Fuel is your beverage of choice, please use our code BPOP when you check out for a discount. I'm honored and humbled that over these past couple of years, we've been able to continue to make content on the type of anime that we enjoy and that you enjoy without having to worry, thanks to our Patreon. So please, if you care, think about joining up and hanging out with us, and it'll be an awesome time. And ensure that independent channels can still live on. Let's continue to talk about Dead Leaves. Dead Leaves plot isn't important. It doesn't matter, and the creators want you to know that, and I want you to know that. I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't true. Promise, this isn't foreshadowing, I swear. It isn't Violet Evergarden. You aren't looking for a deeper meaning. There's a guy with a f***ing drill dick as a secondary character. I'm gonna call him Drillbur, even though he actually has a name, if you want to look it up, but you won't. He really brings a whole new meaning to Drill Baby Drill. That being said, the experience of Dead Leaves is hilarious. It's not every day that an anime starts with 2 people, or, you know, one David Bowie wannabe girl and a dude with a fucking TV for a head, waking up butt naked next to each other. They don't know who each other are or who they are themselves. Amnesia's bitch, what can I say? But it takes them approximately 10 seconds of awkward sexual tension and one shrinkage joke before starts blowing up, dude. Going by their made-up names for each other, which is Retro and Pandy, get it? Because she's pandering, like, as a fan service, she's the only girl in the film, more or less. Immediately get chased by the cops and realize that they've got almost inhuman levels of fighting skills and strength. Retro's fart propels him into a platoon of cop cars, and karate suplex foos their chasers. Okay, I don't know every exact name for every move. I'm not Eye Patch Wolf.
Hey, where'd you get your turtleneck? The turtleneck store?
He knows some moves, is all I'm saying. Retro kicking ass up until the truck he jumps into literally rocket blasts its cargo right into his face, and then the cargo midair transforms into Optimus Prime. Enter Pandy, who breaks its face without even looking at it and then punches a damn crater through its chest. Cue big ass explosion of awesomeness. Now this is how you start a movie. No BS, no narrator telling you everything it thinks you need to know about in the first 5 minutes with some stupid slow fade imagery to make up for the fact that people are generally fucking stupid as shit and will cry if everything isn't spoon fed to them already chewed. Here's your stupid characters, proceed to do the fighting. So our heroes are riding high on their getaway and Retro starts talking about how they must be like ninja hitmen or something before they lost their memories. Pandy isn't really listening though, she's focused on the moon, or what remains of it anyway. It's all broken up into slivers with pieces of it orbiting around the remaining section. It's kind of like a or more creative version of the Apple logo depending on your viewpoint. Anyway, looking at it gives Pandy a flashback of a bunch of red stuff. She grabs her right eye in pain, loses control of the car, crashes, and then they get surrounded by 50 or more cops, probably more. There's probably some plot in there too, like maybe Pandy has some flashbacks from the moon, I don't know, maybe there were some experiments done there or something. Perhaps this is some Christian allegory of Adam and Eve, probably not. We could go back and through the power of editing show each one of those flashbacks one by one and dissect what likely happened, but the movie is 50 minutes long, and like I said, the plot doesn't matter, right? So look at the pretty colors and let me continue to rehash it for you. Slam, they're behind bars in a moon jail called Dead Leaves. Now this prison super sucks, man. You are constantly restrained by a straitjacket potato sack with only a hole for your face and your asshole. They're not the same hole, it's two holes. How would that even work? Inmates are assembly lined into feeding areas, force-fed who knows what, and then forced to shit right after. I mean, literally, it's like pulled out of them. Oh, and if you mess up the status quo in any way, like pumping too much dump from your trunk, you get finger blasted to death by the jail's keepers 666 and 777. I don't know why they're not just called 1821. Either way, they're strong because of a plot thing called the mutation gene. I'd say it's important and like the driving plot device behind the entire story, except it isn't. This isn't Lord of the Rings. We don't have to destroy the mutation gene or anything. It's literally just a Deus Ex, whatever you want to call it. Specifically so the animators can make crazy crazier. It does get explained later on, but we'll get to that. Point is, it doesn't matter. What matters is the sizz. Oh yeah. Because back in their cell, Retro and Pandy decide to enter that back door, and their aggressive cuddling is so satisfying that it breaks open their potato jackets. Euphoric freedom, man. Big brother can't stop us from the fornication, comrades. In the afterglow of their bun crunching, they both enter the codes needed to break off their chains because they somehow know them. It's almost like they've been here before. Well, apparently there's still some muscle memory going on here because this prison break begins on sexual afterglow instinct. So they free everyone else. Pandy and Retro don't have any pants because the fans must be serviced or we'll all die a fiery death. I can appreciate the gender equality though, both main characters being in their underwear. Though, can we be real about the fact that boxers are usually longer than women's shorts? Like, I guess I take back my equality statement. And enforce male thongs. Let's go, wussies. Wait, if they're both wearing underwear, how did they have the sex? Retro must be packing a slinky along with that turn-dial TV head. Whatever, it makes them stand out from the rest of the meat shield surrounding them, so they break everyone else out, becoming the equivalent of Yakuza bosses with their new family of prisoners, but one dude has a satellite coming out of his ass. I don't know why. I guess it wasn't that important. Okay, so I'd like to stop for a moment to catch my breath, just so you know, we are about 15 minutes into the movie. Yeah, this film is like those pro StarCraft players who tout their clicks per minute as something to aspire to. There's so much going on at any given time on screen, it's impossible to actually take in the entire film from one sitting, I swear. I've watched Dead Leaves at least 3 times now, and I just noticed that satellite ass dude. There's so much going on screen, but it's all gloriously animated, funny, and so fast that you can watch it multiple times over in a row and never get tired of it. It's the cocaine comics of anime films, and you either get that or you don't. Anyway, they get attacked by more cops using their newfound prison brethren as bullet fodder. One dude gets shot and says ow. His bullet hole farts blood. You can't make this shit up. They get a motorcycle. A dude gets his face burned off. Gilbert comes in handy and also just cooms. Apparently that's like some stimulating drilling. I don't know. It's also just kind of his thing. They made figures of this guy, and through a series of tubes they find the armory, which has a fucking tank, because why fucking not? They drive the tank right to a train which will take him to the docking bay, and Retro knows that because he just does. Anyway, the train is one of the very few slower sections of the film, which should be telling because it's a moving train. Instead of things happening so often you can't blink, the film actually takes the time to explain what the hell is going on. I know, right? Plot. But first, Pandy pukes because she's pregnant from the no pants stance they did like 10 minutes ago, even though they were wearing pants. It was very impressive. This is also literally 10 minutes ago in the movie time too. There's simply no time in this movie for gestation, okay? The doctor telling Pandy that she's pregnant decides to tell our heroes what happened through some good old, much needed exposition. Everybody cheers. Apparently Retro and Pandy might have been spies, probably. They came to the prison 8 years ago, and then the train starts exploding. Exposition over. Pandy ends up in a secret lab, and the same doctor starts going on some highbrow exposition this time, which Pandy promptly starts thought monologuing right over because the plot doesn't matter, dude. They were spies who escaped from the moon, and now they're back, and if you have the mutation gene, you're special in some way. That's it. That's plot. Now you know. Then Pandy ends up fighting the warden, who blames Pandy for her father's death because something mutation gene. But, and here's the kicker, the mutation gene is actually in Pandy's eye. That's why it's red, because as we know, regular genes are blue. A fight ensues, Pandy loses, and then her baby that was conceived actually 20 minutes ago during that breakout sex that seemed like it was going through the chocolate cherry, but apparently not, shoots the warden, saving the day because mutation genes get passed down to the offspring, so it all makes sense, right? You're following along. Oh yeah, and earlier they show Pandy is pregnant even though she's like not in every scene afterwards. I mean, how can you pander to an audience with a movie this short if the only female character is Perganon Ant in every shot? I mean, there's definitely an audience for that, but it's not as wide. Then the warden gets eaten by like a giant mech thing and becomes a caterpillar, and their baby, who's suddenly grown into an old man, purposely gets eaten by the caterpillar and blows it up from the inside. Also, the caterpillar is a reference to a child's story that both the warden and Pandy remember, but it's not really important. But it is where the name Dead Leaves come from, so there you go, revelations. I too remember a story about a caterpillar from my youth. It's called The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. That's all. Meanwhile, Retro and Pandy get to safety on a spaceship, only to not realize that they're outside of the moon's gravity and they get caught in the Earth's gravitational pull, and on the way down, Retro presses the emergency red button of emergencies, and the ship stuffs them back into cryotubes, shooting them back down onto the planet, insinuating that this is a cyclical series of events, and then the movie ends. Yeah, that's the entire thing. They escaped the facility and were suspended in cryo-freeze for 8 years, only to have an emergency landing on Earth, hence them both waking up in the nude with no memory, and now it's probably going to happen all over again. But I'll be honest with you guys, I did skip over a few key points, like for instance, Dead Leaves is half prison, half secret cloning facility. So Pandy and Retro were spies for the cloning facility, hence Pandy having the mutation gene. If you look back at the movie and like actually try to follow it, it does make a lot of sense. Like, she literally punches a hole through a robot during the car chase scene before they're caught. She obviously has the same supernatural strength we see in 777, which they display later on in the film. And then the same gene gets passed down from her to her son, which could explain the reason that her son is like some sort of super fast growing green goat with guns. I mean, if you need an explanation for that. The entire film boils down to director Hiroyuki Imaishi. The dude likes to have fun and make insanity on screen. Plot doesn't always matter. Remember Promare? He pulled the same shit with the explosion there, where the main character just doesn't care why things are happening. It's literally his signature move as a director. Now, I could go into the deeper analysis of this movie, of the supposed themes and whatnot, and I don't want you to think that this is becoming a theme on our channel, but analysis is a tricky subject, right? Like, you can analyze anything that you want. I mean, that's just a fact. You can look at a white piece of paper and come up with 12 pages as to why it's the size that it is, why they colored it the way they did, why they made it with what they made it with, and how that goes back into history and blah 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 blah. But in the end, it's just a fucking white piece of paper, dude. Sometimes that's not necessary, and I don't do this job to pretend that I'm smarter than you. As far as Dead Leaves concerns, there is definitely stuff to talk about regarding the stringent jail routine, being on a clock for when to eat and shit, literally. There's definitely some social commentary right there, especially considering the go-to Japanese lifestyle of orbiting your cubicle until you die, not to mention the patternistic cycle of the film as a whole and how that often represents our daily lives. But I'm gonna be real with you, if I did that, I would be misrepresenting this film. That's not what Dead Leaves is really about. It's just Proto-Trigger being full of shit as an excuse to do whatever they want because critics are assholes. Dead Leaves is meant for one thing and one thing only, and that is a violent rip from reality. There is no deeper meaning because Hiroyuki Imaishi did not create it with that intention. It is a short film that will take you outside of your life, outside of your responsibilities, worries, and your day-to-day grind, and give you a small break of something that will wow you, make you laugh, and at the end of it, you're left saying, what the fuck did I just watch? So here's a question. Have you ever watched Red Letter Media's reviews on Star Wars The Phantom Menace? If not, you're missing out. It's like Classic old school YouTube. In one section of the second part, Plinkett says,
"The new movies are about shoving as much crap into each shot as possible.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
For Star Wars, it completely killed the movie, but for Dead Leaves, it makes the movie. So what's the difference? The plot of Dead Leaves doesn't fucking matter. You can't accidentally do that, you see. You have to keep up the pace so viewers don't have time to go, what is this bullshit? And instead, they just get caught up in the bursts of color and enthusiasm and a Coomer Drildo. What Lucas made was slow visual diarrhea with Natalie Portman on top.
I don't sense anything.
You can have only one or the other. When the plot is so background, it doesn't really matter. It leaves you free to put whatever you want on screen. Because Dead Leaves is not about understanding, it's about the ride. And if you did understand it entirely the first time around, you may want to go see a doctor because you might have just nerdly diverged off a cliff. It's a roller coaster, not a novel. The Phantom Menace is the equivalent of trying to read Crime and Punishment with hearing aids on at a Chuck E. Cheese. You're gonna have a bad time. And don't do that because you'll definitely get arrested. But this is the shit I love, you know, there's some really amazing anime out there that make you feel things, and we've covered a lot of it. Violet Evergarden, Silent Voice, Ancient Magus Bride, Ava. The stories with real meaning and depth behind them leave you with those lingering emotions about yourself and the world. They're exceptional and unique in their own right, but damn, if there isn't something special about her creator who's in it just to have fun. And that's who Imaishi is. He's the arbiter of animated enjoyment. And I think his time as key animator for Evangelion got to him. Nope, never again. Everything I make from this point on is going to be insane and awesome and maybe relatively pointless. Dead Leaves isn't really a story. It isn't a lesson for a thought-provoking piece. It's an experience. It's a ride through an amazingly animated world of dick jokes and sexual innuendo that leaves you not wondering about the meaning of life, but where your time just went. In fact, if you just finished the final ending of Evangelion, I recommend this as a palate cleanser. It goes so quickly because there's so much going on, and it is all fun and funny and colorful and crazy and exciting. And now I'm not going to pretend that Imaishi-san is singularly absurdist, right? Kill la Kill and FLCL in particular are extremely thought-provoking works, but they are also absurd. And we are more or less an anime analysis channel. Tyler and I research and watch and read as much as we can on our topics so we can bring out the best personal thoughts we can on said topic. But sometimes it's good to hang up the thinking cap and let the imagination run loose. Forget the rules, drop the logic, and suspend disbelief. It's how the imagination plays, and it's stuff like Dead Leaves that gets me fired up to create. I mean, it's pure, unabashed, and unapologetic look at the unrestrained imagination, and I think we all need a little more of that in our lives because honestly, reality blows. And I don't think it's edgy to say that anymore, it's just a fact, man. Don't delude yourself. Of course, we will always find individual moments of happiness, but the big picture is like, well, it's like a Star Wars prequel. Slow-moving diarrhea. But us serfs, we don't get no Natalie Portman on top, bro. We get like Woody Allen. But this, Dead Leaves, it's the real shit. It's the shit. And we f with the shit. It's also from a time past, my friends. You don't really get this kind of thing anymore. I mean, we're headed into a new generation of this medium, and it sure as hell does not look like Dead Leaves. But more on that later, my friends. I got a whole video planned for you on the subject that will be far more intellectual than this was, but that's what it's about. Doing what you want. So subscribe for that, and thanks for watching all the way to the end. Our next video should be a big expose on Ranma Half. Shout out to our lucky patron of the week, Metal Burr, and our Super Saiyan God of the week, Neonosis. If you like G Fuel, don't forget to use our code, supports the channel, allows us to keep that contract. All that will be in the description for you. Check out that Patreon, follow us on social media. We will be back very soon. My name is Mike, this is Bonsai Pop, and I'll catch you next time.